episode of Senior Showcase. We got the college edition this time, and it'll be a little odd for me this time since I'm going to be interviewing my own son, James Mikolajczewski. So, how you doing, James?
Pretty good.
You never thought you'd be interviewed by your father either, did you?
No, it's going to be kind of weird.
Well, either way, we're doing these interviews to kind of recognize all the exceptional students from class of 2020, and the fact that you have finished up college, or at least undergrad officially. It's just a kind of a cool way to get your perspective on the quarantine, college life, and even reflecting back on your high school years. So, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and talking about what you've been doing the last 4 years?
Yeah, so I'm James Mikolajczewski, and I just graduated from Alabama. I studied accounting, and I was pretty involved in a lot of stuff on campus, mainly my job at the rec center. Did that for 3 years. Recently got involved in personal training, and I'll actually be coming back for one more year next year for my master's of accounting. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Great. Now, any clubs or activities that you're involved in while you were there?
Yeah, so I started out the first 2.5 years in a fraternity, which was pretty awesome. And then, like I said, the biggest thing was my job at the rec center, because that took up a lot of time. And then between classes and the fraternity, that pretty much was my big couple of things.
Now, what fraternity?
Well, I guess what's up?
What fraternity?
Delta Chi.
Okay.
Yeah, all my roommates, and we all did it for about 2.5 years, and then we all just lived together. Then I also did a lot of intramurals. I tried to do as many as I could, stay active. I was also the intramural chair for the fraternity, so I kind of organized everything for them, made it go smoothly.
Okay. And then you said at the rec center, what was your involvement? What did you do at the rec center?
So I started that second semester of my freshman year, and I was like a weight room assistant for a year. Got promoted to supervisor and did that for another 2 years. And then starting at the beginning of last semester, I passed my personal trainer certification and started doing both of them at the same time. So then next year I actually plan on just doing personal training during grad school.
Okay, great. Now, what are you doing for grad school, and how'd that come about?
So I'm getting my master's of accounting next year, and originally I wasn't actually going to. I was gonna graduate with 158 credit hours undergrad, and then take the CPA exam and go work in Nashville. But I actually decided I wanted to switch the department I was in within my company, and they were super willing to make that happen, but they needed me to intern again. So I'm interning this summer with Ernst & Young Nashville, and it actually got switched to a virtual internship, only 5 weeks, but I mean, I'm still lucky to have it. But since I had to intern again, I was like, okay, well, now I have an extra year, so let's see if I can get into grad school. And I actually earned a fellowship, which will give me full tuition for next year. So it was pretty much a no-brainer.
And you'll get another year of enjoying the Tuscaloosa experience.
Exactly, yeah. And 3 of my roommates now are also staying, and a lot of other friends as well. So I think it'll be a good year, just a transition. It won't be the same, but it'll still be better than getting out into the real world. Another football season too.
All right. Well, tell us about that. Tell us about your experience. We'll go into the social side now. Tell us about kind of your social experience over the last 4 years in Tuscaloosa.
Well, I think the biggest thing in Tuscaloosa is football, for sure. Every single weekend, there's a ton of stuff going on, people visiting, just parties, and everything's just basically just crazy. Like the whole energy of the city. You can even start to feel it on like Friday when they're setting up the quad for all the tailgating. And that's probably the biggest social thing. For my first 2 years, the fraternity was pretty big. But then it gets to the point where everyone kind of has their friends and the older people move away from it and kind of just hang out with themselves. And lucky for me, I'm at this community called Old Road Cloverdale, and we became really good friends with all of our neighbors. So there's me and my 4 roommates and then the 10 girls that live next door, and we all became like a really close group of friends. So over the last 2 years, like everything we've done has been together, and it's pretty great.
So you guys have become like one big family down there, and just
Yeah.
kind of hang
Mm-hmm.
out, do everything together, watch each other's back, and
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
that's
it's
nice.
amazing.
So tell us, because there's a lot of college students that came back during the quarantine, because your classes did go online as well. Why don't you share kind of what happened and your experience and what made you decide to stay?
Mm-hmm. So originally we were in Florida for spring break, just kind of our group of about 10. And we came back here, and the original plan was, oh, we're going to stay for 2 weeks, make sure we're good, and then probably go home. But then we started to realize that everyone hated it at home, and we were just kind of still here hanging out with each other. And it just kind of turned into, well, we might as well stay longer because there's nothing to do at home. And this is our last time for all of us to be together. Because if we all went home, a lot of us probably wouldn't come back, and then that would just be it. So we figured we might as well at least just take it easy, hang with each other, and it's been pretty great. I mean, I got into a good routine of working out every day, and then we got a little group of us that go to the pull-up bars and do stuff, and we'll play football or tennis, just trying to stay active.
You said pull-up bars, not bars, right?
Pull-up bars.
All right, no, because initially you kind of blurred. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all gotten into a good routine, and we're pretty comfortable here. So, and everyone we talk to who's been at home is like, yeah, I wish like I would have stayed back, because it's different across the country for sure.
Sure, and obviously with the weather, why don't you tell people what the average weather's been like for you down there?
Oh, the entire month of March and April, it was low 70s, sunny almost every day. We had 2 tornado warnings over the past like month and a half, but nothing too serious. Nothing hit Tuscaloosa specifically.
You did have to. You did evacuate your apartment complex there.
We did. Yeah, we actually went to a shelter one of the times because there was a tornado that touched down, I believe, maybe 5 miles north of us, something like that. So that was a little scary, but other than that, the weather's been perfect. It's starting to get hotter now. We had a day in the 90s last week, but it's pretty great.
And you've got a lot in your little cluster of friends there. You've got people. Alabama is not a campus of just Alabama students. You've got people from all over. I mean, kind of share that a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, there's me and 4 roommates, and then the 10 girls that are our neighbors. None of us are from Alabama. It's a lot from Illinois, New Jersey, DC, Maryland, Ohio, just basically everywhere except Alabama.
Yeah,
so
surprisingly a lot of California kids.
Yeah, California's huge. Tennessee, Texas, New York, you name it. I mean, there's still a decent amount of Alabama kids, but it's more than 50% out of state.
Got it.
So it's a good group.
And just to clarify, when you guys, you could explain a little bit how you ended up in Florida for spring break, and also clarify that you weren't part of the groups that were being on TV, not getting a little too crazy on the beaches.
Yeah, no, we were not in the rowdy part at all. But we originally had a cruise booked, and we booked in like October. We're all super excited. We had a group of I think like 15 or 20 people that were supposed to go on this cruise. And maybe about half of the group backed out the week leading up to it, just because everything was starting to get uneasy, and we were still going to do it. We're in the middle of driving, like, to the place we were staying the night before, and that's when we found out that all cruises were canceled, literally the day before. So then we're scrambling. We didn't know what to do. We still wanted to try and do something fun as a group, and we were scrambling to find an Airbnb that we could all, like, go at and just basically hang there. So we wanted, like, a house in Florida with a pool or something. And luckily we found one, but it was the most stressful car ride of my life, because we were all in the car calling Airbnbs, calling hotels, calling other people in our group. And with, I kid you not, less than 5 minutes to spare before, like, the leasing office closed, we finally, like, put down a deposit and got everything booked. And then, so we ended up at this 15-person house in Siesta Key, and it had its own pool. It was a mansion right next to the beach. So we just stuck with our little group and had fun at the house. And then the beach was a half-block walk. But like I said, Siesta Key was not one of those crazy college hubs where there were just, like, mosh pits. It was like we even had police officers kind of drive by and be like, hey, make sure, like, you just stick with your group. Don't go by all the other people. But all things considered, I think it was the best spring break we could have had for what happened to us.
It's definitely going to be a very memorable.
Mm-hmm.
And many of us parents have been reflecting and thinking, here you had graduation weekend, and the reality is, I mean, let's be honest, you guys were probably happy from the standpoint that you didn't have to worry about having parents all around on graduation weekend, and you guys still were able to just sit there and enjoy yourselves a little bit.
Yeah, no, that was fun. We actually have a mini pool in our front yard. So, and it was a beautiful day, 85 and sunny. So we were just hanging out there, got some pizzas catered. And yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to have a real graduation and walk across the stage and all that. But like I said, we've been making the most of everything for the whole time this has been a thing. And I think we did the same on Saturday. We had a good time. And then we still have the option actually for graduation in late July. So if we were all to come back, we can walk across the stage at the end of July if we want.
Well, and hopefully that happens. So for us parents' sake, we'd probably enjoy that.
Yeah, the parents would love it. And then, I mean, half of my friends are graduated and done. So they really wanted that experience to go walk across the stage, wear the cap and gown, do all that. For me specifically, I still have one more year, so it's not the end of the world. But
sure. Now, why don't you talk about, so obviously you're talking about all the fun and games and things like that, and I'm guessing for, we don't want to make you think that that's all that's going on there. Tell us about your academic life and how that's gone, the business school, how you went about getting internships, involvement, things like that.
Yeah, so accounting was kind of where I started from the beginning, and I didn't really know anything about it going into college. But I took the first class and everything clicked really well, and I started to enjoy it. So I was like, all right, this is good. This is the major for me. And classes were tough for sure, but I was actually able to study with, I found, like, study partners, and we had a good method of passing classes. And I think I was able to excel a lot better than a lot of people because I was able to find this person that I studied with, and we really planned everything out, and we're disciplined, and we did really well. And I was actually asked to speak with some incoming students about all that, and I plan to do the same next year while I'm in grad school, just to kind of help them out with accounting. As far as internships go, Alabama does a great job preparing us and setting us up. especially because our accounting program is really good here in like the Nashville, Birmingham, Atlanta region. So recruiters basically come to us, and we don't really have to put in a whole lot of work. Like they have a career fair twice a year where you just go and talk to all the recruiters, super casual, and then they'll set you up for like interviews and go on from there. And my first internship was last summer. I did it with Ernst & Young in Nashville, and I was in a group called Risk Advisory. And I didn't really know too much about risk advisory going in, but I kind of realized it was more IT based, and I didn't enjoy that too much. I loved everything about the office, all the people I worked with, and I definitely want to be back there. But like I said earlier, I asked them if I could switch into a different department called audit. Audit's more of like the traditional accounting pathway. So that's what my internship is going to be this summer. And it was supposed to be the same. I was going to live in Nashville for 8 or 10 weeks, but because of everything, they moved it to virtual starting in July, and they cut it down to about 5 weeks. But like I said, I'm still just lucky to have it because I have a lot of friends who lost internships or lost job offers altogether.
Now, has there been anything during the quarantine that has caused you to learn anything different about yourself?
Learn anything? Well, I think I know a lot of people kind of struggled with not having any sort of like purpose throughout the day. And I've always heard, people saying you got to have a routine to like stay sane during this time. So I really kind of took that to heart, and my routine's basically been wake up, work out, make myself breakfast. If it's nice out, I'll go sit outside for a little while, and then just kind of hang out with my friends. And the biggest thing I've kind of realized too is this is my last chance with a lot of these people. So I've just been trying to hang out with my closest friends as much as possible and just really enjoy the time with them. So I think kind of the combination of that has made it pretty good for me. And then Netflix has helped a lot too. Been watching a lot of that.
What's the binge watching been?
Well, what did I watch? I watched a lot of movies, kind of like action, war type movies. Those are good. Criminal Minds. What else? Tiger King. Everyone watched that.
You got into it after all.
And then some of the neighbor girls watch Dance Moms. So when we're over there, we'll watch Dance Moms a little bit with them, which at first I was like, oh, this is going to be stupid. But it's kind of addicting, and it's a pretty funny show.
All right. So, hey, so 10 years from now, ultimately, where do you envision yourself being? Where do you envision yourself living? What kind of is going to be a career path? What are you going to be doing?
Mm-hmm. Career path-wise, I'm starting in accounting and hoping to do about 2 to 3 years and get some work experience. And then I want to apply it to work for the FBI. So that's kind of been a goal of mine since early high school, probably. And as far as cities are concerned, I have no idea because basically I'll apply to become a special agent and they could basically place me anywhere. I don't have too much say in it. But that's my goal. We'll see how it goes. As of now, there's not too much I can do. Just keep working towards accounting and do as best I can in that. And then when it comes to applying, it's super highly selective. Something like 2% of applicants get in. So we'll see how it goes when I get there.
And at this point, you have no idea if you're going to have a job offer or not from Ernst & Young. You're just going to kind of go through the process and hope for the best, right?
That's right, yeah. They actually gave me a full-time offer last summer, but then I wanted to switch departments. So basically, yeah. At the moment, though, no, I don't have an offer. But I'm hoping the internship goes well even though it'll be pretty weird doing it all virtually. But hopefully I end up in Nashville working for them after this is all said and done.
Now, so let's take a step back to your decision-making process when you were in high school. What was kind of your process? What were you looking at in colleges? How'd you ultimately end up in Tuscaloosa? How'd that go for you?
Yeah, so Alabama was number 8 on my list of schools. It was basically a fallback. And my top schools were Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, North Carolina, Duke, a couple other ones I can't remember. But I basically didn't get into any of those. So I was down to Alabama, Indiana, Miami of Ohio. And I quickly, even though Indiana has a really good business school, canceled that out just because of scholarship. I wouldn't have had much money. But Alabama was offering a full scholarship. Miami would have given me a decent amount as well. But then when me and you went on, 10 college visits
Yeah.
over the last end of high school. And I remember coming to Alabama, and it was like 72 degrees in early February. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And researching more into Alabama, I realized that their accounting program was very, very good, especially in the South region. And I ended up I think we placed a housing deposit right after that visit.
Yeah, it was right after our little last meeting of the day. We realized we better
Mhm.
put one down because I think it was the last day to guarantee a housing.
Yeah, so I'm really glad it ended up coming here. I think it's the perfect balance for me because my best friend from high school, Jacob Carpentier, goes to Notre Dame, and that was my top choice. And he's a brilliant, brilliant kid, but he was having a difficult time at Notre Dame, and I was like, "Whoa! If he's struggling, I don't know if I would have really enjoyed it that much." So I think it worked out perfectly that I ended up at Alabama, still in a really competitive accounting program that's given me great experiences. They've connected me to a top company. Um, and then socially, Alabama's awesome, like I said, because of football. That's the big thing. So that was another big factor in why I wanted to come here. I've always been a big college football fan. And yeah, I have no regrets at all. I think everything worked out perfectly for me.
Well, great. Now, have there been any, through your process at Alabama, have there been any special faculty members or staff or people that you've encountered that have made a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, so there's one accounting professor specifically that has been awesome. I took her for 2 or 3 classes, and she really just made it fun almost. Not, I don't know if fun's the right word, but she made a boring subject somewhat enjoyable. And she was one of those people that came in with great energy and would do anything for her students. So, I mean, there were many times where I'd go to her office hours and just talk or hang out. Not
I'll give
even
her a
about
shout out. What was your professor's name?
Jill Datema. Jill, and she wrote a letter of rec for me for grad school. So yeah, she definitely stood out the most. And then I had another professor, Sophia Kennedy, who also wrote a letter of rec, and I also had her for 3 classes. And she just does a really good job of explaining accounting. And I've met with her multiple times as well. And she's another one of those people who would help out students in any way she could.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, my initial perception was, how was it going to be not knowing much about Alabama and their standards. And the reality is I know that they've actively tried to recruit top-notch students and talent. And I mean, I remember I think your class's ACT average was in the high 20s, like
Mm-hmm.
29, something like that. And heck, I mean, amongst all your roommates there, you've got a real, you guys have fun, but I've also seen you guys really hit the books and study and
Mm-hmm.
have a nice balance. So that's been good to see.
Yeah, I mean, out of my roommates, me and another one are graduating with over 4.0s, and then 3 of them are engineers with great jobs lined up. One of them's interning at NASA this summer. So we're all on a great path. Yeah, I think we really balance everything super well.
All right. I never thought in those days growing up hearing Keith Jackson talk about Alabama football that I'd one day have a son down there in the mighty SEC. So,
Right.
especially you knowing that all your cousins are such a big Big Ten family. So,
Well, the SEC's better. It's pretty simple.
it just means more.
Yes, yeah, good one.
All right. So now looking back at your time at Prairie Ridge, obviously I know that you were impacted and you enjoyed a lot of things. Are there still people like faculty, coaches, people that you look back on that still have made a huge impact on your life and you're appreciative of?
Yeah, Coach Peck, number one for sure. He was my baseball coach for 4 years, and I think I had him for gym class too. But he was one of those guys that cared. He cares a lot about baseball, but he cared more about turning us into good guys. And he really preached on character and doing the little things right. And at the end of the day, if we were doing all those things right and didn't win, it was fine. So baseball was half for him, but the other half was just turning us into great guys. And I took so many good lessons from him, little quotes that have just stuck with me about, like, taking a deep breath when you feel your heart rate start to rise and just slowing everything down and calming down. And a big thing, probably the biggest thing that stays with me, is to only control the things that I can control and just forget about all the uncontrollables. So with the quarantine and all this, that's an uncontrollable. I can't control that. But what I can control is sticking to a routine and still working out and eating well and doing little things like that will give me a better quality of life. So he was great. And then both of the Taggies, Mr. and Mrs. Taggy, I had them for Spanish probably 2 or 3 years, and they really made it super fun. And me and my friends did a lot of video projects for their class, and they just really stick out too as being a really fun couple and teaching Spanish well and making it extremely enjoyable.
Now, any other people? I don't want to shortchange it, but I know that there's a lot of people that made impact. And is there anyone else that kind of stuck out and for you?
From high school?
Yeah.
Well, my friends are still faculty.
Faculty.
I guess another teacher would be Mr. Wadlington. He taught AP psychology, and he was one of those guys that just made it so interesting. And everyone always wanted to take that class. And it was kind of my first intro to the world of psychology. And he made me I almost considered majoring in it after that. He was just someone who made class so enjoyable and really made you think about everything on such a deeper level, and he would play devil's advocate all the time and just really make you have sound arguments and think everything through before you say it. And he was awesome. And I know everyone who took that class has awesome things to say about him.
And so if you look at the friendships that you forged in high school, has that still been important in your life? How has that worked and your involvement with those kids?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Whenever we're back home, we're still always hanging out all the time. And a lot of my closest friends came from baseball because we've all bonded over something similar, and we've stayed close the whole time. But it was funny, I was talking about with my friends yesterday here about how it's like while we're here, everything's totally focused on the Alabama friends. But when we all go back home, it's like just flip a switch and everything's back to normal. So I'll go home, hang out with these guys I haven't seen in 6 months, and it's all back to normal, and we'll still joke about stuff from high school and still have a good time. And I think, yeah, a bunch of those guys will be close friends of mine for my whole life. I can't
Now,
imagine.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I can't imagine not being in touch with some of those guys.
Now, I know you had mentioned obviously the different peckisms and things. On a humorous note, what is something that you kind of reflect on fondly that Peck would do during practice or games that you guys still will laugh about when you're with your friends?
Oh man, there's too many. Um, just some of the funniest things we would just know. There are little things that we would do where we would just know that we're going to get yelled at afterwards. So I guess one specifically, not to call out Hunter Martin, but I remember a game where he caught a fly ball in the outfield while there was a runner on base, thought there were 2 outs, and just kind of like jogged it out like it was nothing. And then the guy on base just ran home and scored. And that was one of those things where we were like, oh no, he's going to have an aneurysm after the game. And sure enough, he did. And we would make jokes about like the splash zone. So we'd all be like huddled up. And if he was yelling, you didn't want to be in the front because you'd get splashed all over. There was another time where, it was during the state playoff run our sophomore year. We had a guy, JD Patterson, and Vinny Claseri, and they changed the background of Coach Peck's iPad to like Vinny's face, just like smiling. And Coach he couldn't figure out how to change it or anything, and he just slams it. God bless it. And then everyone's just like cracking up, but he was so mad and nobody could hold an end. And he's like, just get to the foul pole. We're doing sprints. And we're trying to think of other stories.
Oh man.
There's another one where Jacob was playing first base and caught the ball and got somebody out and then had to make a throw across to third base to me, I think. And he basically just didn't even make the ball like halfway. It was just a horrible throw. And after the game, coach is like, Jacob, did you throw the ball or did you knee? And that's one of those where everyone's like biting their lip just to try to not burst out laughing.
Well, you know what? I think the biggest compliment is that you guys all will have some funniest memories. And as I've been talking to some of the high school baseball players, it's the same.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing in common too, everyone respects him so much. Like, yeah, we can joke about stuff, but at the end of the day, like, we all know he'd do anything for us. We'd do anything for him. So.
No, that's awesome. So if there's a high school junior or senior kind of listening to this and thinking about next steps for college, are there any kind of recommendations or things that you'd really kind of have them consider or start doing right away as they start college?
So I guess if we're talking about the college search process, one thing I noticed that a lot of people struggled with in picking a school is some people don't want, they're nervous about a big school. So a big, like 30,000, 20,000 kids, they think it'd be overwhelming. And what I got to say about that is being in Alabama here, it's 30,000 or something, but there's ways to make it feel way smaller. And you just got to get involved in some sort of club, if it's a fraternity or sorority or a youth group or something to make it feel smaller, and it will. It's not going to be an overwhelming thing. And I think a cool thing about a school so big is if, you don't like this one group of people or you have beef with this person, you don't have to see them again. So that's pretty awesome. And So that's, I guess, one thing for the search process. And then if you're like an incoming freshman, I mean, you'll hear everybody say this, to get involved. But I'll take it a step further and say, yeah, get involved in as much as you can, but have a yes mentality. I don't really have any regrets, but I think early in college, if I maybe like did more, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. I don't know. But I'm not saying to say yes to everything. Of course, if it's illegal or morally wrong, that's not what I'm saying. But if someone's like, hey, why don't you come check this out with me or something like that, just have an open mind and try to, I guess, meet as many people as possible and stay on their good side. And by going to everything, meeting as many people, you never know how those people are going to come back to help you 2-3 years down the road. And like I was saying, even though I'm at a huge school, it's funny how senior year especially, everyone somehow knows everybody. And which is just crazy to me, that because it's such a big school. But you'll be talking to this person who, oh wait, yeah, that was my roommate freshman year, or oh yeah, that's like my roommate's boyfriend or something. And it's just like everyone knows everybody. So don't make enemies, especially freshman, sophomore year, because people will know. Everyone knows at some point.
Another interesting, and it might be helpful because I know both of us were not prepared for what Greek life was going to be like, and that was something you wanted to pursue. Mm-hmm. What are some do's and don'ts and things there that people who do want to consider it, or maybe why they would consider it, or some pros and cons of it that maybe people would get a good understanding of?
Yeah, so Alabama's a lot different than a lot of schools. First and foremost, it's very expensive, which is a deterrent for a lot of people.
What, the school or the Greek life?
Greek life.
Okay, got
Greek
it.
life is extremely expensive. But from a social perspective, if you're going to want to get into like the party side of things, as a guy, it was very necessary because a lot of the girls are involved in sororities, and then you meet. So I met all my closest friends from the fraternity, and those are the guys I live with right now. So from that social making friends perspective, it's great. And then just being exposed to, I guess, the party side of it. And then I had 120 people in my fraternity. So that's connections right there with all the older guys. So I know there were multiple times where a guy would be like, hey, with my company that I'm interning with, like, they have an application open, I can put in a good word. And they would just post that in like our Facebook group or something. So from connections perspective, making friends, that's the biggest benefits to it. Drawbacks, very expensive. And then I guess once you get to being a junior, like no one cares. It seems like the world freshman and sophomore year, and then junior, senior year, and post grad, no one cares anymore. So it's just something to consider, that it's not the whole world.
Is that true on the guy and the girl side, or more?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because everyone, it's the way I made my closest friends. So I definitely am glad I did it, for sure. But once everyone's made their friends at this point, like, no one cares.
Now, conversely, though, I do know that you've got some friends or people that you know that didn't go that path and still had a good experience. Do you care to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, like I said, there's so many different organizations to get involved in, whether it's a youth group, playing intramural sports, getting a job. Yeah, my job at the rec center. All of us are very close, and those people will hang out. So I think as long as you can find a way to make your friends and get involved, it doesn't really matter how you do it. It just depends on what you want to get out of it.
Awesome. And to kind of close it, or maybe not close it, but I don't know if they talked about this when you were there. Did they talk about being once a wolf, always a wolf when you were at Prairie Ridge, or is that a relatively new process?
I think that's kind of new. Yeah, I don't know.
but as you hear that phrase, and I think someone pointed out to me that that's from High School Musical or something, I think.
I don't know.
What does that mean though? As you reflect back as being an alum now, 4 years removed from high school, what's that mean?
Well, yeah, I think it means a lot of lessons still stuck with me. Like I was talking about, everything Coach Peck would say, all the friends I've made who I think are going to be lifelong friends for sure. So I guess, yeah, once wolf, always wolf. There's a part of it in me that's never going to go away. And I still love going back to the school and seeing everyone else, and it's pretty fun. Yeah. I guess
Yeah, now that you guys are old enough and you're able to go out and go to some of the previously to some of the social like bars and restaurants with some of your fellow grads, there seems to still be this connection. I know that you guys even connected with the senior the year ahead of you from a baseball team, and you guys all went out and
we did.
kind of
Yeah. We had a big gathering of all the baseball players from the 2015 season, I believe. Yeah, that was just last summer. So it's really cool now. Yeah, like you said, we'll still catch up, and it's crazy to see like what everyone's up to now. And I love people changing for the better or the worse, but it's cool.
Well, and now I guess the part that people don't realize is how quickly you have gone from enjoying baseball, getting into school, to bam, real world, real life now. What do you want to just share regarding that for any incoming or people just graduating high school?
Yeah, I definitely would like to stay in college forever. I mean, that's another reason why I'm really glad I'm coming back for one more year. Because I know a lot of my friends are like, oh, I'm really excited to get out there and make my own money. But I just think they're going to regret it, because everyone I've talked to who's 1, 2, 3 years into the workforce, they're like, oh man, college was the best. I wish you could go back. And so I've taken that to heart. And like I said, say yes to as much as you can, get exposure, meet as many people as you can, make those connections. And I think you're going to end college with no regrets.
Now, a couple local places in Tuscaloosa, if there's anyone out there that has interest in going to Alabama, what are kind of the hot spots, restaurants, bars, things to do? Kind of give a little, be a tour guide.
Tour guide. We discovered this new place recently. We've been going to a lot. It's called Babe's Donuts. And probably some of the best donuts I've ever had in my life. We've gone there like many times through the whole like quarantine. That's my favorite new place, but some of the more classic ones are like the barbecue places. So Moe's Barbecue is really good. Full Moon, really good.
Give a couple of those Tuscaloosa barbecue places that everyone talks about.
Archibald's.
Archibald's, and you got one more.
What's the other one?
Dreamland.
Dreamland. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there in a while. See, a lot of the good places cost more, so I don't spend my money unless parents are in town. Yeah, you probably know more about Tuscaloosa restaurants than me.
Well, I don't know about that, but there's a little Mexican place that everyone talks fondly of, where the line's always out the door. I know.
Taco Mama.
Yeah.
Taco Mama's really good. Yep.
Yeah, and I saw they have one of those in Nashville as well.
Oh, well, I don't know. See, you know more than me.
There we go. Now, but just so people know, you literally it's similar to a lot of college towns where you got a place called the Strip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And literally runs along near the football stadium for about probably a half mile, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Strip is basically where most of the bars are. It runs kind of right through the middle of campus. So you have the football stadium on the left, then a bunch of the bars. You got fraternities like down on the right, and it basically runs So there's like the strip, and then it goes around a curve into like downtown Tuscaloosa, where there's like more bars and restaurants and stuff. And my house next year is actually kind of like right behind it at a great spot. So I'm really excited to just be like right there and be able to walk to anything.
Now, what were your junior senior year the little party bars and places that all the upperclassmen hung out at?
Last year, junior year, was Innisfree. That was definitely the best one. I feel like it was like all juniors, basically. Like we'd go there and everyone was like friends. We knew them. And then this year we probably went to Galette's a little bit more, which is it was newly renovated. It's like the one closest to the football stadium, and that's probably where more like seniors go. But we still actually went back to Innisfree a lot this year just because we loved it so much. And we knew a lot of people who worked there and people who still go. So those are top two.
Any Bama traditions, either from football to tailgate to, I mean, any ones that you kind of look back on that you're going to be like, oh, that was fun?
Well, you're probably the guy who knows more about traditions.
Oh, here we go.
I don't really think too much about traditions. I guess tailgating, if you want to call that a tradition, tailgating is probably the best part of it, and just the football culture in general. As far as traditions go, I don't really have any off the top of my head.
Well, the one that I was surprised on, because I never knew, because I literally thought that Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama would be like the song down there. And people do get excited over that song, but what's kind of the big song that everyone, because I never even heard of this song until you went down to Tuscaloosa.
Right. It's called Dixieland Delight, and I also hadn't heard of it, but it's the song that everybody sings at the end of the third quarter of football games, and just the entire stadium just like yells it and like dances around to it, and it's super fun.
Now, with that being said, I know there was a lot of national publicity about this, but what was that LSU weekend like when President Trump came through the football game? What was that experience like?
That's probably the most energy I've ever like felt in a city. Because even starting like Wednesday, they were starting to set stuff up for like college game day on the quad, and so many people were coming into town. Like at my place, we had multiple people staying with us. Everyone I know had people staying with them. The bars were trying to charge like $80 weekend passes. It was just insane. And although we lost, that was still like one of the best games that I've been to. And it was just a crazy atmosphere. And students were selling tickets for like $300-400. I was tempted. I was definitely tempted, but I'm very glad I did not do that and got to experience it, because that was probably one of the best weekends here.
And the other cool thing that you've done, and some of your Prairie Ridge classmates, because you've had on football weekends, you've had Prairie Ridge friends and students who are at other universities come and visit yours, and you've gone and visited theirs, and it seems like you've had some good times from that as well. So something else to kind of consider when people go away to school.
Yeah, no, so I had Ben Widger, Sloan, yeah, from Mizzou. They visited last June, and then Luke Gannon came from Tennessee, and then I have also gone to Tennessee for a football game last year. So those were all really cool.
Clemson,
yeah, Lizzie from Clemson. Clemson's really cool. Yeah, I guess one of my goals next football season, is to go to more away games. I think I went to maybe 3 this year, but now that it's like it'll be a new lineup of teams. So I'd like to kind of just experience as much as I can.
What are some of the campuses you've visited while you're there?
South Carolina, Florida State, UT, Knoxville. Didn't go to Auburn. What else? Yeah, that might be it. Not too many.
Hopefully you'll be able to go to Auburn this year. or are you hosting this year?
No, we're hosting this year.
And hopefully you guys will be able to have a normal experience. Not quite sure what that's going to look like yet.
We better.
So
I think so.
Hey, well, I really appreciate the time, and obviously, yeah, it's a little weird, but obviously a little weird meaning that I'm interviewing you. But I will also tell you, as a father, extremely proud of you and what you've accomplished, both having fun and also being true to yourself and being an outstanding student, and kind of that discipline of following your dreams. And I think that came through today as well. So appreciate it, and wish you continued success.
Thanks, Pops.
All right. Love you, man.
Love you too.
All right.
Everybody just clap your hands. Clap your hands, everybody.